Rengura is on standby. Good morning, Renate. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Selma.
How was your overall experience, Renate, of the late president's death and funeral? And perhaps also just describe the atmosphere there when the news broke out.
Yeah, Selma, actually when the news broke out on that Sunday, I was still on leave. I was on vacation, and I was due for work on the Tuesday, the 6th of February. And usually when I'm on leave, I actually switch off. I don't access my social media, neither do I even watch the news or listen to the news. So when I found out the Sunday afternoon, that's when the news reached me when a friend came to visit. I was so shocked, and the only thing I could think of was it is going to be a very few hectic. The few weeks to come are going to be very hectic, and also like how are we going to cover this big news in the Irongo region? I was expecting an influx, obviously, of invitations of people maybe having events where they just remember and honor the late president. And I was just thinking, like, how could we compete with such a high number of these invitations? So we obviously had to come up with a plan where we choose our focus areas so that we ensure that the news that we're producing was going to be interesting and also just represent the views and the mood of the residents in the region. And then it came to the coverage. Most of the work for us here in the region, it was during the 2 weeks before the main memorial service in Windhoek and the funeral. So there were so many events taking place. The region established like a planning committee, and they had like 13 main activities where they honored the legacy of the late president. And I can tell you, Selma, based on the number of messages of condolences or the ceremonies, one can actually say that the people in Irongo loved and cared for the president, and they also respected and looked up to him. I can mention events such as the tree planting ceremony that took place at the envisaged government park. And they planted trees just so that they can remind the residents of the region that Dr. Geingob was here and he made a mark in the region. And there were obviously also memorial services for various sectors in the community. There were pensioners, they were the business and the education fraternity, all just having their memorial paying tribute. The governor, I remember, also switched on memorial lights in all of the towns in the region, just to create that awareness about the president's legacy. I remember there was also a public lecture. There was also a parade by all our emergency vehicles in all of the towns in the region. And, the main thing that stood out, or the main event that actually stood out, was the last memorial service by the region. And Selma, at that event, the governor gave a very emotional speech, and it was actually the first time that residents saw him cry in public. And when this happened, it also affected the residents that were attending that memorial. And that, I think, is when it started to sink in for many of the people here that the late, that the president was gone. And, because all of those days until that memorial service for the region, many residents, the news felt so surreal. It still didn't sink in. But that day, which was last week Thursday, that's when now, the president had just no other choice but to come face to face with the reality that the president was no more. Yeah.
And Renate, I will agree with you that, the number of people that came out to pay tribute, symbolize his, unwavering dedication to just unity, but of course also You covered, Renate, stories of the late president. What are some of those stories that you covered that stood out for you?
Well, we went, for example, at the memorial service of the pensioners. You know, the pensions came out in their numbers at Swakopmund, just so they can say thank you to the late president. And I remember there was one who told us that, no, you know what, I personally I came out, I decided to even wear high heels today. And this pensioner was in her late 70s. She decided to wear high heels and also just look professional to attend this ceremony to say something. Because she said that that pension that she would get, that she was getting every month from the government, it really helped her a lot. And to take pride in her look was basically to communicate to the rest of the nation that because of that pension grant, that grant that they used to get every month, it's a display of the love and the love that came from the president, because he cared for them that way. And you know, we also, when we were at the lecture, in honor of the late president, the young people were shown a documentary on Hage Geingob, and many of the young people said to us that they actually they became closer to the president and kind of ended up knowing what type of a person he was, and that for them was really outstanding. And also at the memorial service that I earlier talked about, there was a display of unity from all the sectors, from all walks of life. You had your business community talking about, you know, how we need to be united going forward to develop our country. Mm-hmm. You had the political parties also echoing similar sentiments. You had other leaders that were also saying that, you know, just like the president, each one of us has a certain characteristic that we need to now unlock going forward. This can be being inclusive, or being a visionary leader, or just being a person who unifies all the people around you. You can do this in your personal life, or you can do it, if you are a leader, you can do it on that level as well. So those were the messages that came out. And I should also mention that some of the leaders and the people we spoke to, they were saying that what they've learned with this is that you need to commend people when they are alive and not wait for them to pass away to say thank you, to say you are doing well, or what you have done in my life has made such a big impact. So those were the things that were coming out.
Renate, now that we have buried, you know, our late president, how is the mood like there in the coast?
Well, the people are now trying, the messages now, or the news has now sunk in for many after we witnessed the residents watching the proceedings of the funeral and memorial on TV or on their cell phones. The news has now sunk in. They are kind of processing this, what has happened. And, you know, in the past few weeks, we saw that a lot of people were dressed in black coming to work, or you just see them in town, they are dressed in like the dark colors. But that is slowly coming out now. They're wearing like their ordinary clothes with the bright colors and all that. But for most people that I've spoken to, they are saying that they want to now emulate in their lives what they have learned from the late president. And that's what the mood is all about. They are still processing what has just happened. And many of the people are also talking about the main memorial service and the funeral, how it was covered, how they did not feel left out because they could witness everything on TV as if they were also in Windhoek attending these events live.
Well, Renate Rengura, thank you so much for your contribution and all the best.